Welcome everyone to Talks with Ted, brought to you by Horizon Star Entertainment. I'm your host tonight, Ted, obviously. I'm gonna get into the general, I would say, view and production for this show that I'm doing. I'm just an everyday guy talking about things that may be of interest, and most of my speculation has been from pretty much just observing. You observe the things around you, you observe the people, places, what's going on in the government, things of that nature. And I figured that most shows out here, they bring guests on. The guests talk. We talk about stuff and politics, government, poverty, things of that nature, right? Well, this show, I want to engage the audience. What do you think? What's your opinion? What are some things that we could change or try to change, or come together? So that's pretty much the premise of the Talks with Ted's series and episodes. We talk about history, specifically Black history, education, with current events, all things like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. So I want to talk a little bit about history, right? And specifically our history. All right. So I remember when I was a kid growing up, they told us that Christopher Columbus discovered America. I don't know exactly how long that lasted before we were actually told the truth, but I do know that that's what I learned. And I'm 32, so the majority of you guys out there that are around my age, you probably learned the same thing, maybe even older, right? And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I talk about history. So they told us that Christopher Columbus sailed over here, discovered America. He made peace with the Indians, and they had the first Thanksgiving, and all the good stuff, right? Well, years later, we find out that this dude didn't even discover America. He wasn't the first person over here. So that's one thing they got wrong in history, right? There's more. So really, the first people that were here, I believe, is the Native Americans. This is really their land. We kind of just came in and took over, right? But that is a perfect example of the history you learn in public schools. That kind of gets in what we're going to talk about when we talk about education. All our shows, all our topics, they kind of go in with each other and feed off of each other. So, education, history, today's events, things of that nature, it all ties in. Now, how many of you know your true history? How many of you know where we came from, truly where we came from? How do you know your ancestors, anything of that nature? Does anybody know that? As I said, my show, you go to the comments, yes, no, if you got questions, anything like that. I like to hear from you. I like to hear from the audience. I want to know what you guys think, you know? So the thing about education and specifically public school education is it doesn't really teach us about Black history. It doesn't really teach us about our heritage, our origins. Now, before I get any further in this conversation, I want to let you know right now that this ain't about race, it ain't about a black or white thing. In fact, that's just a strategy, divide and conquer. That's just a distraction anyway. But that's for a later topic. So, where did we come from? The average person knows that we came from Africa, of course. But a lot of people don't know that, our ancestors was in Egypt as well. Back then, it was called Kemet. We had, teachers, philosophers, scientists, mathematicians, and actually, back then, the Romans, the Greeks, Alexander the Great, when he conquered Egypt, they learned from the Egyptians. They learned from our ancestors. Okay. In fact, The black African American woman, the black woman back then was worshipped as a goddess. The black female was held high because the Egyptians Kemet is all about birth, rebirth, the sun, Osiris, resurrection. They're all about birth, life. That's what the Ankh stands for, life, right? And because the woman gives birth, that was a real sacred thing back then. Now, in school, if from what grades, kindergarten to pretty much high school, you're not taught none of that. You're not taught none of that. You're taught that this is the things that I believe to this day. Well, what I was taught, but probably to this day, is that we were slaves. Okay. The Caucasian came over to Africa, put us on ships, enslaved us, took us back to America, and worked us to death. Okay, beat us, all type of stuff. Right? We're learning that. Okay, wait, there's more. There's more. Now we learned that as well as let's see, the civil rights movement, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, um, Angela Angela Maya, all this stuff, man, is we kind of given pieces, kind of pieces of our history. But I can guarantee you that not one public school will tell you about our true history, the true Black history. And lately, I believe that everyone has their personal path to obtain, enlightenment, peace, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. But I believe that everybody has, their personal responsibility to embark on that path and discover for themselves who they are, where they came from, and things of that nature. So when we're talking about history and education, they kind of go together, right? Because you're taught about history through education, but you're not taught about Black history. You ever wonder why that is? Have you? And the reason I say that is because, speaking of history, the human race has the tendency to just follow stuff, right? Just follow it. For example, this might, make a couple people mad, but hey, can't like everything. So, say a person says that they believe in dragons, right? And another person says, okay, I believe in Jesus. Well, the person that believes in dragons, werewolves and leprechauns and things of that nature, uh, what's the difference? Now, the other guy, he'll say, well, I have faith, in Jesus. I have faith in God, whatever. Well, what if the other guy has faith that there's dragons? What if the other guy thinks that a dragon will swoop on down and snatch that ass up? You know what I mean? It's not distinction, right? And the only thing that really intrigues me about the whole thing about history and faith and stuff like that, has anyone ever researched your faith's history? Right? Has anyone ever researched the history? Now, if you have, kudos to you. But I can almost guarantee that the majority of the population that believes in whatever they believes in, right? They have not researched it to the extent that it needs to be. They have not learned the history of it. That's what we're talking about right now, the topic history. They have not heard the history of it. And I say that because blindly we follow whatever, right? We see, a guy on TV that's a celebrity and, he's popular and whatever. We'll follow that. We'll pay attention to that. You know, we won't question, well, where did this start? Where did Christianity start? Where did Muslims start? Whatever the religion is, just where did it start? not the filtered version. No, not the filtered version. I'm talking about the unfiltered truth. Okay. Not, God, breathed on uh, the waters of the deep and in 7 days created, the cosmos and everything. Okay. I mean, like I said, I'm not here to knock or, talk bad about anybody's personal beliefs. I'm not here to do that. All I'm saying is maybe question, right? Just ask the question. Do your research. It can either two things is going to happen if you research. One, it's going to make you stronger in your conviction about what you believe in, who you are, and where your future might go. Or it's going to entirely change your perspective on everything. And I know change is scary, everybody fears change, but sometimes change is good. Sometimes change is good. Now, I won't say the government or like, the elitist or anything that, but the people that are higher than us that pretty much control everything. Um, think about this history. These people control what our children learn in school. They control what you watch on TV. They control what music you listen to. Okay. They control, just about every aspect of your life when it comes to the mind. The mind. Now, you may be wondering, well, okay, well, that don't mean nothing. I mean, I'm just doing me, I do this. Man, listen, come on, stop it. Stop it. All right. As I said before, I'm not here to knock anybody. I'm just here to have a little conversation with some, open-minded people, you know. And the thing about history is we don't know it. all we really know, think about this. I challenge you to think for yourself. All we know about history is what we're either taught in school or what, we're taught self-taught, homeschool. That's all we know. You don't think that that may be like a problem to just blindly follow, like sheep? Think about that. That's all I want you to do is just think about it. Because we spend so much time following instead of leading. We spend so much time wrapped up in things that are really not us. It's not you. It's just that persona that you put on that you face the public with. You know what I'm saying? So, I want to tell you a little bit something about Black Wall Street, right? I'm gonna go to my second monitor, because I don't claim to know everything in the world. I know just enough. Some things I don't know, but I'll be the first to admit it if I need to, look it up or, find out what it is. Because research to research is like a great tool to have in your toolbox. Okay. Now, a lot of people don't even know about Black Wall Street. That's what's kind of crazy. And it's not your fault, and it's not, nobody's fault that they don't know. They weren't taught. For instance, this woman that I spoke to, I'm not saying the name, she don't like that, but she didn't even know who Malcolm X was. A black woman. Think about that for a second. All right, so back in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? It's around 1921. So after the war, a lot of black people came together and built libraries. I think there was two airports, banks, lawyers, just about, just everything. They had it. Now, of course, segregation was back then, so they really didn't have a choice. But check this out. This is some. This I want to show you the power of us, what we have. when we come together as a community, as human beings, as a race, and accomplish stuff, man. I'm telling you. So it says during the Tulsa race massacre, which occurred over 18 hours on May 31st, June, excuse me, on May 31st, June 1st, 1921. It was 2 days. A white mob attacked residents, homes, and businesses in the predominantly black Greenwood neighborhood of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The event remains one of the worst incidents of racial violence in U.S. history. Now, I want to stop there just for a moment, right? I want to stop there just for a moment. Now, this said, it is one of the worst racial violence in U.S. history. Now, you got to think, well, if this was, the one of the worst, acts of racial violence in U.S. history, why did we learn this in school? See what I'm saying? I'm telling you that education is something else. I didn't find out about this a couple years ago. So, and much of the country following World War One, it saw a spike in racial tensions, right? And including the resurgence of the KKK. Now, the KKK is the people responsible for the Tulsa massacre. Now, by 1921, fueled by oil money, Tulsa was growing, prosperous city with a population of more than 100,000 people, right? Tulsa also was a highly segregated city. Now that plays a major part also. Remember that segregation, okay? Now, a young black teenager named Dick Rowland entered an elevator at the Drexel Building, an office building on South Main Street. At some point after that, the young white elevator operator, Sarah Page, screamed. Rowland fled the scene, the police were called, and the next morning they arrested Rowland. By that time, rumors of what supposedly happened on the elevator had circulated through the city's white community. A front page story in the Tulsa Tribune that afternoon reported that police had arrested him for sexually assaulting the elevator. Sarah Page, elevator person. Check this out. After shots were fired, chaos broke out. The outnumbered group of black men retreated to Greenwood because what they did was around 9 p.m., a group of about 25 armed black men, including many World War I veterans, that's another important clue, went to the courthouse to offer help guarding Rowland. After the sheriff turned them away, some of the white mob tried unsuccessfully to break into the National Guard army nearby. Now, all of this is not, I don't want to say accurate, but this is just what they say. This is what they say. Now, what happened was when our ancestors came back from World War One, they came back war heroes. Okay. Now I'm still talking about Tulsa, the town of I think Greenwood that they was in. Now they came back war heroes. Some of the other race, the white race, came back as heroes too, but not many of them. Now, because of segregation, blacks couldn't shop at white shops, and vice versa. It's segregation. Well, the white economy was failing back then. Failing. The black economy was thriving. And this, I believe, is one of the turning points where, the elitists, whatever you want to call them, whatever, people that control everything, whatever. This is the turning point where they realize that we need to take control of this race. Now, what happened is that the white race seen them and was like, man, they're doing good, they're doing better than us, they're doing great, but we can't go over there because of segregation. We can't work for them, we can't hire the lawyers, none of that, right? Now, the Black Wall Street community was so raw, bro. Like, listen, they were so raw that, say for instance, that a neighbor's house just burnt down. A neighbor's house just burnt down, right? Now, it was normal for uh, a person to, or the community to go to their neighbor's house and build it back up. That was just a normal thing. Say for instance, if, property got broke into, just pretty much what I'm saying, if there's damage to any type of property in Black Wall Street, they would fix it. They would come together as a community and help. Okay. Man, it must be going down out there, huh? uh, so anyway, the white race seen that back then, and they didn't like it, right? Because they wanted, money. They wanted the oil also. Now, Black Wall Street had bankers, lawyers, an airport, barbers, just everything you would need in a civilization was in this one little spot, right? Well, the KKK didn't like this at all. And to this day, they believe that it was all planned because when Black Wall Street businesses, homes, and everything like that was burning on the outline of the street of the town, people were watching. Yeah, they was watching it burn. So you got, let's recap. You got this strong Black community that the dollar stayed in the community. It stayed in the community almost, I think it was like, it circulated 1,000 times or something like that through the community before it got outside of the community, right? The economy was strong. We had lawyers to defend. We had our own airport. We had our own bank, library, mechanic shop. Like I said, just about every business you can think of, Black Wall Street had it. And it was thriving. It was rich. Everybody looked out for each other. The community came together. It was a wonderful thing. And that shows you that if we can come together as a community, as a people, then great things can be accomplished. Now, back to that, back then, they stomped that out. Yeah, burned down all of Black Wall Street. There was something like 30 to 300 people that was killed. All the buildings burned and destroyed. 1921. 1921. Now, I talk a little bit about that history because A, it shows you what we can accomplish when we come together. We can accomplish great things. If we can put our own self-interest aside, if we can put our own petty differences aside, we can accomplish much. And I don't mean just the Black race. I mean everyone. Everyone. Now, the Black race is suffering, a little bit more and being oppressed a little bit more than the white race and other races in America. But if we came together for the common goal, we can accomplish anything. Nothing is impossible. Nothing. And I fully believe that. I fully believe that. Now, I challenge you for this topic, history, because we have our show every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Just something to think about. The questions you got to ask yourself is, what is my history? What is my true history? Who are my ancestors? What happened? What's my heritage? You'll be surprised what you find out. You really will. Just ask questions. That's the kind of the problem, one of the problems with us these days is we don't ask enough questions. We just follow stuff because other people are doing it, because it's popular, a fad, a trend. No. Take it back your individuality. Okay. Be proud to be Black. Be proud to be yourself. Learn your history. Learn your history. That's what you got to do. Simple as that. So now, the next thing that I would like to talk about would be education. And as I said, it kind of ties into the history thing too, because that's where you learn education. Where you learn history. That's where you learn it. So now the thing about education would be, how do I put this? It's bullshit. Straight up. I mean, it is. It's straight bullshit. Our well, even us, what we were taught, unless you want to get a job as an architect or, mathematician, do you need algebra, calculus, and all this trigonometry, all this other stuff? No, no. At the end, you don't. Now, what's wrong with the education today is not just with the black race, it's with the white race too. It's with just about every race in America, in every public school and some private schools in America. We were talking about history, right? Well, do you guys know where your education system came from? You see what I'm saying? And they don't even teach that in school, and there's a reason why they don't teach that in school. I gotta pull it up over here on my second monitor because I want this art. This is actually from the history. No, I'm sorry. This is actually from Benjamin Bogle, right? He's a historian, I believe, and a blogger. So check this out. I mean, it's gonna blow your mind, like for real. There's a quote too. It says, "While U.S. parents and children know how the U.S. system was formed, which they don't, few know how our education system has evolved." Check that out. Now, the purpose of school, right? Just straight school. Did you know that it was founded for factory workers? Yes, sir. That's exactly how it was. I'm looking for it right now. So what's crazy about this, right, is the reason that public school is they're teaching the curriculum today the way that they are is because it's all about control and it's all about subserviency, right? It's all about conform. So how I tied into the history thing, tell me one thing that you know about your heritage that you learned in public school besides slavery. Don't worry, I'll wait. Think about an answer yet? Just one thing that you learned that you know about your heritage besides slavery. You can reply in the comments. I'll definitely read them. Now, the thing is, it says in 1647, Massachusetts Bay Colony commanded that towns of 50 families have elementary schools, and towns of 100 families have Latin schools, right? The purpose of this mandate was to teach children to read the Bible and to instruct them on the basics of their Calvinistic faith. That was the original purpose. Well, it was one of the original purposes of school. This right here is after the factory thing, which, I mean, it's really crazy when you think about it because you would think, well, what role does public education have in a factory? What? And like I said, it's crazy because a lot of people don't know this. Type this in real quick. Check this out. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. That now it says the education system as we know it is only about 200 years old. Before that, excuse me, formal education was mostly reserved for the elite. But as the industrialization changed the way we work, it created the need for universal schooling. Excuse me. Now, pay attention to this part, right? Pay attention. I'll put links to the articles in the comment section after the show so you can look this up yourself. From a credible source. This is Quartz. Check this out. Excuse me, that's in my throat. Excuse me. I'm going to take a drink. Woo, all right. So, factory owners required a docile, agreeable workers who would show up on time, do what their managers told them, right? Sitting in a classroom all day with a teacher was good training for that. Early industrialists were instrumental then in creating and promoting universal education. Now that we are moving into a new post industrial era, it is worth reflecting on how our education evolved to suit factory work and if this model still makes sense. Now, it just said if this model still makes sense. The same educational model that our children that we are learning and our ancestors, not ancestors but generations ago learned, is this same education system, flawed, broken, all that, but it's for a purpose. This is what I'm saying about asking questions, researching stuff. You ain't never wonder why that they teach you certain curriculum in public school or teach you certain curriculum in your education. You never wonder why that is. They're training you. It's strategy. The people that control, you can say the government, but I believe it goes higher than that. It ain't even no conspiracy stuff. It's just straight facts. You know, um, nothing will get, or you will not get taught nothing in public school, sometimes even private and even college, without a higher up saying or approving the curriculum. Simple as that. Now, it just hit. It is worth reflecting on how our education evolved to suit factory work and if this model still makes sense. Why in the hell, right, would I need to go to school to learn to be in a factory? It's crucial, I'm telling you. It's crucial how they done this. It's crucial. Factory schools, as they are now called, originated in early 19th century Prussia. For the first time, education was provided by the state and learning was regimented. Dozens of students at a time were placed in grades according to their age and moved through successive grades as they mastered this curriculum. They took an industrialized approach to education. Industrialized approach to education. Impersonal, efficient, and standardized. Right? Now that impersonal thing, why do you think that children nowadays feel so isolated at school? I'm telling you, man. The early industrial capitalists spent a great deal of effort and time in the social conditioning of their labor force, especially in Sunday schools, which were designed to inculcate middle class values and attitudes so as to make the workers more susceptible to the incentives that the factory needed. The Industrial Revolution created jobs that had never existed before. For previous generations, Mooker describes artisans and farmers mostly worked out of their homes and set their own hours. Excuse me. Economist I think it's, I want to butcher his name. I did it. Galler and Omer Moab, I think, argue that Parisian factory style schools caught on across the West, that's us, as the spread of industrialization created a need for, listen to this part. Please listen to this part. If you listen to nothing else I said tonight, open your mind up, for some knowledge, listen. It says factory style schools caught on across the West as the spread of industrialization led the charge to adopt universal education in the US, UK, and elsewhere in Europe. Factory workers were among the biggest champions for the Elementary Education Act of 1870. Now check, man, listen, check, check this out. The spread of industrialization created a need for compliant, literate workers. Compliant, literate workers. Not students, workers. I think link workers. That's why this is so messed up, because we are still under the same system. We are still under the same system. People wake up, drink some coffee, open your eyes, splash some water in your face. This is crazy. I mean, you can Google it for real. Find a couple articles, compare them if you don't believe it. But the American public school system is designed to create literate, compliant workers. That's it. It's not created to get an education. It's not created to make us smart or make us, leaders or entrepreneurs or things that we really need. No, it's there to create workers, bro. Workers. When I found this out, I wasn't surprised, because if you look at the education system, we all know it's flawed, and they don't teach us nothing for real. Basic arithmetic, the history's jacked up, So I mean, it's crazy, and when you really think about it, it's like, now check this out. It says, in a post-industrial world, education may require an equally bold rethink. It might mean more comprehensive adult education or regular retraining to keep skills sharp as old jobs disappear and new ones appear that require vastly different responsibilities. Or it may involve integrating technology to create a more personalized learning experience. Ain't that crazy? They straight just said the transition to factory work was unpleasant, to put it mildly. That's to put it mildly. They said unpleasant. So they really want to say the transition to factory work was effed up. People didn't want to do it. It was like, what? Working 16 hours a day in this hot factory. Back then they didn't have AC. It was horrible. So how do you remedy that? So let me ask you this: how do you remedy a person that doesn't want to be there? They need the money, but they really don't want to. They really don't want to be there. They don't want to work the long hours. They don't know how to work. The machine. You educate them. You educate them. It's crazy. The idea that men had to show up and take orders from a boss, someone they were not even related to, was demeaning and emasculating. Now, this is the thought process back then of the average person. Once the factory and the industrial age kicked in, this is the mind frame. They're like, why should I take orders from this dude? He ain't my brother. He ain't my cousin, uncle. He ain't nobody. Why should I listen to him? because he's paying me. You know, that was the mindset back then. I mean, it clearly says factory conditions were often terrible and completely changed how people organized their days. Time was no longer their own. Time was no longer their own. And then we talked about, you know, the next paragraph. But I really wanna drive this home before we move on about the education. And it's because, you know, I'm thinking about homeschooling my kids because I mean I found this out maybe 1 2 years ago, something like that. But ever since I was 13, I always felt that something was off. You know, it just didn't feel right. School didn't feel right. Religion didn't feel right for me. It's like it just didn't feel right. I always was asking, well, this is crazy. You know, well, why would they do that? You know, type stuff. And then I learned about this, and I mean, it's crazy because it's true. So fast forward to today, we got the same structure, the same, well, it ain't the same curriculum, but the same ideas. It's the same, you know, the same thing, just put a different cover on it for real. So we can honestly surmise that in today, 2021, our children are being trained not to be leaders, not to be entrepreneurs, not to be, you know, high earners. They're trained to be factory workers. They're trained to be literate, compliant. We'll just use those two, literate and compliant. And it's worse. I mean, half the people in America is in the factory. And it's not their fault. That's the thing. People say, well, go get a new job or fill out a resume here or go to school, go to college. Stop it, bro. Stop it. You got a single mom out there with, you know, 5 kids or however many. If she goes to college, great. But the reality of her working, going to school, taking care of those kids, you know, taking the daughter to practice, it's unrealistic. I know, I believe it's capable. People are capable of doing it. Those women are capable of doing it. But you got to really be selective of what you learn. Just be selective. So, like I said, we can surmise in summary that the education system today is jacked up. It's especially jacked up for Black people. It's especially jacked up the curriculum. And it's over a 200-year-old system to create compliant and literate workers. That's what it's for. That's what it's for. Think about that. Like I said, I will put the links in there so you can look, because that's what I would say. Look at the stuff. Oh, sorry, my cup. Look at the stuff yourself. Okay. Research it yourself. Don't take my word for it. It's available on the internet. It's right here. Just in your spare time, you know. Say you at work, you're on lunch. Just look up, you know, how education started, or look up, you know, COMET. You know, just ask questions. Just think. You know what I'm saying? Just think. So that's our segment about education. Like I said, you guys, I want this show to be specifically to interact with you. You know, what do you think about the education system? Has it helped you? Um, you know, has it helped your kids? Is how do you feel about it? You know, how do you feel about a system where it's meant to create literate but compliant people? Think about that. I always find it real strange that they try so hard to oppress us, right? So hard, but they steal our culture because they have none of themselves. They, you know, copy us. I don't understand, but they hate us. Now, I'm not talking about everybody, but the select few that, you know, learned that behavior of hate and racism, but at the same time, they, listen to our type of music and, dress like we. It's crazy, man. It's all hypocrisy. That's why I was saying, do your own research, keep an open mind, and ask questions. That's really all you got to do is just ask questions. That's the most important thing. Okay, let's move on real quick and talk about today. Now, the coronavirus. And in fact, I'm not even going to speak on that because, like I said, there's some censorship going around. So we ain't going to talk about that. But I will say that I believe that maybe the numbers aren't as high as they're saying. The thing that I noticed from my research and from my 10, 20 plus years, about 20 plus years of studying, I've studied religions, all different religions. I've studied history, geography, science, or effort. And I know that nothing is done randomly. Like the things that you see on TV is not random. The things that you scroll down on your feed is not random. It's not random. So when we move forward to today, I turn on the news and I see that there's another killing. I see that there's another mass shooting. I see that there's another, black man getting shot. What is going on today? I dropped that. What is going on? I really don't understand it. Um, I don't know why there's so much hate out there today. I don't know why there's so much only self-interest, but I do know that I find it real strange that I'm hearing about people do some weird stuff, right? And when you think about it, it's like, is this fake? Did they pay them to do this? Because the stuff that I see in the news, because also have a new digital news paper called Star News. So we report on like real stories, relevant stories, things that actually matter and that is fact checked, verified. But the thing that got me was a few articles that I read. I think it was this week, and what was that? Oh yeah, it was a teacher in school that she or he had like kind of like a group thing with their students where they said, you guys pretend to be the jury for the George Floyd murder. See what I'm saying? Who in their right mind would do that? An educator, a teacher. Really? That's why I say it's weird. It's weird that something like that would even happen. What would possess somebody? What happened in that situation was horrible, horrible. It's a clear abuse of authority, horrible. And now this teacher decides, well, you group of students be the jury. We're going to have kind of like a like RPG type thing or LARP type thing, and you guys are going to be jury, and he's going to be prosecutor. He's going to be what? These were kids, by the way, kids, not adults, not college, kids. So when I think about things like that, it really makes me think that maybe somebody paid them to do that, because what would possess a sane and normal person to do that? A teacher. You got hired as a teacher, so you have some sort of intelligence, right? So, when I think about today, I think that there's a lot of things that need to be done different. But I will say, check this out. There's too much police brutality going on. There's too much police brutality. There's too much black on black violence. There's too much violence, period. You know what I'm saying? Period. And I know that because of pride and because of the way that we were brought up, nature versus nurture thing and all that stuff, I understand that. But I guarantee you, if we can come together as a community, put our self-interest aside, and actually, work together to achieve a common goal, we will accomplish that no problem. No problem. I really believe that. I really do. So it's just something to think about. When I think about today, is like every time I turn the news on, and every time I report on the news, somebody's shot, somebody's dead. It's some cop is misusing their authority. Um, it's really sad. It's really sad, and I'm hoping that eventually, we can come together to do better. They took away all our leaders. They killed every single one of our leaders, right? So I wish we had a real strong leader that could pull us together. And the thing is, it's not our fault, because I can guarantee you that those that the movers and shakers, the ones that really run all this, we'll get more into that in future episodes, because there is so much knowledge that you need to know. I listen. It is mind-boggling once you really find out the truth about a lot of this stuff. As I said, I've been researching for like 20 years. Um, there's a couple guys that I talk to that know about this stuff as well. I really like Merkaba Academy. You can find him on YouTube. It's called Merkaba. But there's just so much you don't know. And once you do know, you will look at the world. You'll even look at yourself from a whole new different perspective, right? History, education, today's world, all that comes together. Because like I said earlier, you don't see nothing on your screen unless, they want you to see it. Nothing is reported in the news unless they approve it. The higher up who owns the news stations. You know what I mean? You notice how they only report on like the most violent stuff, or, just bogus stuff. You don't see no reports on black entrepreneurs. You don't see no reports on, somebody's child won the gold medal or something like that. Good positive stuff. I try to report that on my digital newspaper, but I weep for the world today. And as I said, it's not really our fault, for real, because we don't know nothing else. I mean, some blindly follow religions, or ideas, whatever you want to call it, without even asking why. Why is it this way? Or, well, what's the history on this? Or where did this originate? Or, well, why did he do that? It's just ask questions. We need to stop being sheep and just following, and start asking questions. Be leaders. Okay. All the problems that I discussed tonight can be fixed. It can be fixed, but it won't be fixed unless we come together. It will not be fixed unless we come together. It's divide and conquer. These people calculate our destruction. They find ways to oppress us because they are so afraid of us achieving anything. They're really afraid of us coming together. Now, say for instance that people stop killing each other, and things of that nature, gang bang, whatever, hustling, whatever. Like I said, I understand you gotta do what you gotta do. Um, Everybody's situation is different, but if we came together as a race, a single unit, they would probably be terrified, and I mean terrified, right? So it's just something to think about. Like I said, open your mind, open your heart, open your soul, and challenge yourself to think. Challenge yourself to think for yourself. You know what I mean? Don't follow whatever else it is, because it's in the music, it's in the TV shows, it's on the news. All that stuff's put out there to control this. That's what they care about, because once they control your mind, or once a person, whoever controls the mind, they control the population. Whoever controls information, controls the population. Think about that. Think of all the things that you were learned in school. Go back to it. Did you learn anything about your heritage? Did you learn anything about your history, your real history? Did you learn anything about central banks or our banking system or the real reason for the Social Security Act? Listen, I'm telling you, this goes deep. It goes all the way back before the American Revolution. This is how old that this strategy, I guess you can call it, is. Think about that for a moment. Like I said, Talks with Ted, we try to challenge, the way that we think. We try to be open-minded. This show is for that place. It's a safe space to express your opinions, your comments, whatever's on your mind. Uh, just post your comment down below. We'll get back to it. We'll answer it. We'll talk about it. What do you think? What's on your mind? That's what we need to get to. What's on your mind? It's crazy. It's crazy these days. I mean, like I said, the coronavirus thing. Yeah, like I said, I ain't gonna talk about that. But there's also a lot of stuff that I did not cover tonight and will be covered in future episodes. So make sure that you tune in every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Daily Motion, Rumble. Daily Motion and Rumble, I have a more uncut version. Like I said, they getting crazy as that thing with censorship nowadays. Like, I mean, like hella crazy. But I mean, we knew that was coming for real, right? So let's make sure you follow us on all that. All right. Now, I thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope you learned something. I hope I was able to express that. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Like I said, I'm just a regular dude. I own a business. I'm an entrepreneur. It's a consulting and management company. But I don't got no PhDs or nothing like that. It's just common sense stuff that I'm talking about. Just common sense. You know, just we need to ask more questions. That's all. Open your mind up to knowledge. Because if you gain knowledge and you don't use it, then what's the point? You know what I mean? The self-preservation thing, I understand. But again, like I said, we got to come together. We got to. If we don't, we're going to be oppressed forever. They've been doing this stuff for generations. Think about that one. And I can show you where to look for that. You see what I'm saying? I can point you in the right direction where you can actually see what it is that you believe in came from. I'm telling you guys, it's real deep. It's real deep. And I like to hear from you. I don't want just me talking. We will have a guest next week, special guest. Get a kind of opinion on the topic we discussed next week from him. Talk a little bit. I encourage you guys to comment while we're doing the show live so we can talk about it. And like I said, it's not like, any other show where we're trying to get, monetization or likes or hits or this or this or that. If you watch and like it, cool. If you don't, cool. I'm just trying to challenge you to think for yourself. That's all for real. You know what I mean? And in order to do that, we have to open our mind. That's all we got to do. We got to open our mind. That's it. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Ted, of course. This has been Talks with Ted. Like I said, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So you guys have a great night. Thanks for watching. Remember to open your mind. Remember to stay true. Remember to do you.